I knew you were young. You're 27. I didn't know you were the youngest ever in this job.
I didn't realize that until after the announcement came out, when the president officially named me and put out the statement, and I saw that on the news myself. So I suppose that's...
You were born to do it. How were you born to do it? Tell us about your background.
Sure. I was raised in a family that was not political at all. Business family, small business. We owned an ice cream stand and a used truck shop that my family still runs up in New Hampshire, which is where I was born and raised. And the fact that I grew up in New Hampshire, it kind of opened my eyes to politics, obviously being the first in the nation primary state. But I went to school on a softball scholarship. I was an athlete my whole life. And when I went to college, St. Ansem College, to play softball.
We always go there.
It's a very politically active school. And I realized, wow, I loved news and media and politics. And I was fascinated by it all. And I kind of threw myself into all of these different opportunities on campus. And then one thing led to the next, and here we are.
So you interned for Trump 1.0?
Yes.
For the White House?
I did.
While you were in college?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
What happened there?
So 2016 was the first election I was eligible to vote in. Voted for Donald Trump in the New Hampshire primary and, of course, in the general election. And I applied for an internship. A student who was a few years older than me, who's actually a producer for ABC at the White House now, was a fellow student, and she was an intern under Obama. And I remember hearing her talk about it in class one day, and I thought, that's fascinating. I want to be an intern for Donald Trump. So I literally went on whitehouse.gov and applied for the internship, and they chose me.
So
I don't know why, but they did.
College-age student from New Hampshire, which isn't the reddest of states,
no,
and a non-political family, wind up voting Trump in 16, not like voting for him this time around.
Yeah. So I wrote 2 editorials in the St. Ansem Crier, our school newspaper, and one of the titles of one of the editorials was "Why Donald Trump Just Keeps on Winning." And at the time, I realized he was speaking in layman's terms, and he was saying things that I felt like really resonated with people of my background, right? Blue collar, small business, middle class working family. Neither of my parents went to college. They worked very hard for everything they have, and watched my family business have some downturn during 2008 and the financial crisis. I was very young at the time, but that's my lived experience.
You weren't getting shunned by your friends?
No, I wasn't. The forgotten men and women, I think that message really spoke to me and a lot of people that I grew up with in that kind of blue collar town.
Wow.
And when I got to college, I realized not everybody feels that way,
right,
especially my professors. And it really propelled me to just use my voice and dive into politics.
How so? Because people ask that all the time.
Yeah.
Do I tell my college student to fight openly for his or her beliefs, or do I have them go along, to get the A's, get into the best law school, med school, business school by playing the game until you have more liberty?
Yeah.
Where do you fall?
Gotta speak your truth. It's the only way, I believe. And I think when you show courage in sharing your values and opinions, people respect you more, and it will work out, and you'll land where you're supposed to be,
yes,
right? And maybe you won't get that job you were hoping for, you'll get denied by that school, but God has a plan, and it will work out for you.
For a reason.
Yeah, and I think it's much more liberating to just be honest. And I think this election showed that there's many more people in this country who feel the way that we do on the right than on the left. And I think the silent majority isn't silent anymore. And I think all parents should encourage their children to use their voice and have courage and, speak their truth.
So I know the past couple of years before you went into the White House, you were doing campaign work and comms work for Trump. But what about in the interim? What'd you do after Trump 1.0 until then?
Yes. So Trump 1.0 started as an intern and then was offered a full-time job, which led me to working in the press office under Kayleigh McEnany, who was my old boss and remains a very good friend to this day. And then went back home and actually ran for office. I briefly worked for Congresswoman Elise Stefanik, who will soon be our United Nations ambassador. And she has a PAC that supports and encourages women to run for office. And I had a conversation with her about being in New Hampshire and the district that I was from, and really sparked my interest to run myself. So I went back home and kicked off a congressional campaign, which was an amazing experience. I was in a very competitive primary. A lot of money from the DC establishment went into the race against me. There was a lot of negative ads. I won the primary, ultimately lost the general election. New Hampshire's a tough state to win at the federal level, unfortunately, for a few reasons, but it worked out.
Did that thicken your skin right up, though?
Totally. Oh my gosh.
There's a reason for all of these steps in the journey.
I have so much respect for anyone who puts their name on a ballot because nothing is off limits. They will go after you and your family, and everything is on the line when you decide to be a public servant and run. But I don't have no regrets. I met amazing people, and it taught me so many skills and life lessons, and it was a wonderful experience.
Well, you're a nicer person than I am. I definitely do not have respect for anybody who puts their name on a ballot. I can think of
That's
several
true.
people who never
There's
should have
some
done
people,
that. But you're generous. All right, so at the same time, you're building a family life. You fall in love. I didn't know until today that you married a man who's a lot older.
Yes.
He's 59, you're 27.
Yes.
How did that happen?
I met my husband during my congressional campaign. A mutual friend of ours hosted an event at a restaurant that he owns up in New Hampshire and invited my husband, and I was speaking, and we met, we were acquainted as friends, and then we fell in love, as you said. And
was there any I can't date him, he's 59
yes,
or 57,
of course.
whatever.
I mean, it's very atypical love story, but he's incredible. He's my greatest supporter. He's my best friend. He's my rock, and he's built a very successful business himself. So now he's fully supportive of me building, my success in my career. And he's the father of my child, of course. And he's the best dad I could ever ask for. And so supportive, especially during this very chaotic period of
poor
life.
Man, he had no idea what was going to happen.
I walked into your life and it's been a circus ever since, but God bless him because he's fully on board.
So he's an Italiano.
Yes,
yes,
he
so
is.
He's a lover.
Yes.
He's a romantic man.
Yes.
So there's your babe who was born in July. That's your little boy?
My little boy.
What's his name?
Nicholas, and we call him Nico.
Aww.
Yeah.
We talked about this a little backstage at the Super Bowl, but how are you handling, true new motherhood?
Yeah.
He's not even a year, and this crazy job.
Yeah, it's a lot. No denying it. He's 7 months. I had him in the midst of the presidential campaign. 3 days before the president almost lost his life in Butler, Pennsylvania. My son was born on the 10th. The president was shot on the 13th. It was my first day home with him from the hospital. And it kind of threw me right back to work much sooner than I would have probably expected or hoped. But becoming a mother in the midst of this very chaotic political world that I work in has been the best thing I could have ever imagined because it gives you great perspective and it humbles you. And my son doesn't give a crap about my job.
No.
He just wants me to come home and snuggle and play toys and be present. So it's, a difficult balance to prioritize being good at my job and being good as a mother, but I just try to prioritize my time and carve out that time when I can. And I'm so grateful to have the support system I do. A great husband who can be very present with our child, and then of course a wonderful mother and father and friends who chip in when I need them.
We continue to face uncertainty when it comes to the economy, with a perfect storm brewing as Social Security and Medicare hit a breaking point as the largest generation is hitting retirement. A smaller workforce means a smaller tax base. You pair that with our growing national debt and rising cost of living, and we could have a big problem. So what are you doing now to protect your family for the future? Gold can be a safe haven in hard economic times, and Birch Gold makes it easy to diversify a portion of your savings into physical gold. Birch Gold will help you transition an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in gold, and it does not cost you 1 cent out of pocket. Protect your future today. Text MK to 989898, get your free info kit on gold, and get a copy of the Ultimate Guide for Gold in the Trump Era with a foreword by Donald Trump Jr. There's no obligation, just information. Birch Gold has earned the trust of countless Americans looking to safeguard their savings. Just text my initials MK to the number 989898 today. Thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.